Just weeks ago, Donald Trump, the man who built his entire political brand on being a bully, on tariffs, on America first, on never backing down, flew to Beijing for a summit and had lunch with Xi Jinping, and called the meeting a great moment of respect. Trump. Respect. The man who called China the greatest threat to America.
Because we can't continue to allow China to rape our country, and that's what they're doing.
Smiling, nodding, and asking for a second helping. Something broke. And it didn't break last week. Because for the first time in modern history, America didn't show up as the boss. It showed up as an equal. And that changes everything. And the rest of the world watched. Because if America is sitting down with China as an equal, what does that mean for Taiwan? What does that mean for the world order that's held since 1945? While most of the world wasn't paying attention, China didn't conquer the world order. It rewrote it. If you're new here, this is what we do on Just Curious. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. To understand where we are, you have to go back to 1978. China was poor. Genuinely, deeply poor. A closed agrarian economy that had been battered by decades of internal chaos. Then Deng Xiaoping did something radical. He opened the door. Special economic zones were established, created along the coast, foreign investment was invited in, and China began its long experiment with what he called socialism with Chinese characteristics, which in practice meant capitalism, but the party stays in charge. Western companies didn't need much convincing. Cheap labor, a massive potential consumer market, and almost no environmental or labor regulations. It was a gold rush. American corporations led the charge. Under Bill Clinton, the U.S. pushed to give China permanent normal trade relations status. And in 2001, with George W. Bush's support, China joined the World Trade Organization. The logic was simple. Trade would create a middle class would demand democracy, and China would slowly become more like the West. It was a bet, and it lost. Instead, what happened was this. American factories closed. Jobs moved to Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Apple designed its products in California and made them in China. Nike, Ford, General Electric, the list goes on. American consumers got cheaper goods. China got the technology, the expertise, the capital, and the manufacturing know-how. The US, without really meaning to, handed China the blueprint for industrialization. And today, China is the manufacturing capital of the world. It produces more steel than the next 10 countries combined and manufactures around 30% of all global goods output. But here's where it gets really interesting. China does not just make things. It controls the raw materials that everything is made from. Rare earth minerals are a group of 17 elements with names most people cannot pronounce, and they are essential to almost every piece of modern technology. Electric vehicles, semiconductors, fighter jets, smartphones, wind turbines. China controls roughly 60% of global rare earth mining and around 85% of the world's processing capacity. And when Trump escalated his trade war in 2025 and slapped tariffs on Chinese goods, China's response was not to beg for a deal. It restricted rare earth exports. Suddenly, American defense contractors and tech companies were quietly panicking. Here's the kicker, though. The missiles America was firing during its strikes on Iran required those same rare earth materials. You cannot bully someone who controls the ingredients list, and Trump found that out the hard way. Every tariff he threw at Beijing, China had a counter. Every ultimatum was met with patience. Xi Jinping did not rage post on social media. He waited, because China plays a different game. One measured in decades, not news cycles. And here's a fact that surprises most people in the West.
China has surpassed the United States as the largest economy in the world.
Since 2014, China has been the world's largest economy, if you measure by purchasing power parity, or PPP. That's the method economists use to compare what money actually buys in different countries. The more common headline figure, nominal GDP in US dollars, still shows America on top, because the dollar is strong and China's currency, the yuan, is deliberately kept lower. But purchasing power parity strips that away and asks, what can people actually buy? And on that measure, China wins. Its GDP growth has averaged around 6 to 9% annually for most of the last 3 decades. It has lifted over 800 million people out of poverty, the largest reduction in human poverty in history. It built more kilometers of high-speed rail in 20 years than Europe managed in 50. Whatever you think of the political system, the economic transformation is genuinely staggering. Then there's the tech race, which is where things get uncomfortable for Washington. Take electric vehicles. BYD, a Chinese company most Europeans and Americans barely heard of 5 years ago, overtook Tesla in global EV sales in 2023.
Aaron, tell me why you're laughing. You don't see them at all as a competitor?
No.
Why is that? I mean, they offer a lower price point.
I don't think they have a great product.
Why is that?
I don't think it's particularly attractive. The technology is not very strong. And BYD as a company has pretty severe problems in their home turf in China.
Right.
So I think their focus is, and rightly should be, on making sure they don't die in China.
Okay.
China now manufactures more EVs than the rest of the world combined, and it has done so by controlling the entire supply chain, from the lithium mines in South America to the battery factories to the finished cars. When European and American automakers tried to compete, they found they were years behind and dependent on Chinese battery technology to catch up. The EU ended up slapping tariffs on Chinese EVs. Not because of unfair trade exactly, but because Chinese manufacturers were simply better and cheaper. Washington went further. The Biden administration imposed tariffs of 100% on Chinese electric vehicles, effectively pricing them out of the American market entirely. In artificial intelligence, the picture is more contested but equally striking. For years, the assumption was that the US led in AI and China was a fast follower. That's no longer obviously true.
DeepSeek.
Chinese AI labs are producing frontier-level models. Huawei, despite years of US sanctions designed to cripple its semiconductor access, is still producing advanced chips and 5G infrastructure that half the developing world runs on. The sanctions slowed China down. They didn't stop it. And while Washington was focused on these technology battles, China was quietly building a different kind of empire, one made not of military bases, but of infrastructure loans. The Belt and Road Initiative, launched by Xi Jinping in 2013, has poured hundreds of billions of dollars into roads, ports, railways, and power plants across Africa, Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and Latin America. More than 140 countries have signed on. Critics call it debt trap diplomacy.
One of the major Western criticisms of BRI has centered around the phrase debt trap diplomacy, the notion that China has deliberately entrapped developing countries.
The idea that China deliberately lends to countries that can't repay, then claims strategic assets when they default. The reality is more nuanced. Some countries have benefited enormously. Others have found themselves in difficult positions. But the geopolitical effect is clear. China has built relationships, dependencies, and goodwill across the global south that the US simply doesn't have. When votes come up at the UN, when coalitions need to be assembled, China can call in those relationships. Africa alone has become central to China's strategy. Chinese companies have built stadiums, hospitals, parliaments, and railways across the continent. Not out of charity, out of access. Access to markets, to resources, to political support. It is in many ways the same playbook the British used in the 19th century, just without the gunboats. And then there's Taiwan. The issue that Xi Jinping, according to Trump himself, said was the most important thing on the table during their summit. China considers Taiwan a rogue province, a piece of its sovereign territory that must eventually be reunified. By persuasion if possible, by force if necessary.
我们不承诺放弃使用武力，保留采取一切必要措施的选项，针对的是外部势力干涉和极少数台独分裂分子及其分裂活动，绝非针对台湾同胞。
But Taiwan has its own government, its own military, its own democratic elections, and makes around 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors. Xi reportedly warned Trump directly that mishandling Taiwan could lead to clashes and even conflicts. Trump notably made no commitments either way on a pending $14 billion arms sale to the island.
I'll be making decisions. But you know, I think the last thing we need right now is a war that's 9,500 miles away. I think that's the last thing we need. We're doing very well.
Would the US defend Taiwan if it came to it?
I don't want to say. I'm not going to say that.
Whether that's strategic ambiguity or something more worrying for Taiwan, nobody quite knows yet. So here's where we land. China didn't become a superpower by winning a war. It became one by being patient enough to take Western capital and turn it into industrial dominance. Patient enough to build relationships across the developing world while America fought wars in the desert. Patient enough to let Xi Jinping sit in those ancient Beijing gardens and wait for the most unpredictable president in American history to fly across the world and call their meeting a great moment of respect. That's not a country being bullied. That's a country that has already changed the world order. Quietly, methodically, and largely irreversibly. The question now isn't whether China is a superpower. The question is what kind of world it's building, and whether anyone is paying close enough attention to notice. If you like this video, watch my other video, How America Got Buried in Debt Next. I think you'll find it just as interesting.